These teams really like to find that rhythm and can run quite a distance once they do.
Beautiful shot. They whip out and the triple.
MBK puts us down to a 1v1 and wins it. Takes down one. Jay takes down two. Make that two on top.
Jay! Mo doesn't know, or does he? He wraps around with the pistol. Indy doesn't even react.
Like a bee. Oh my God! 8 games done, but still a hell of a lot more to go before we can even get close to crowning the champion of Element 1. I am Lynx, joined by Fellow, and now, as I said, we've got the 8 games done. We've got now some seedings in the mix. It's no longer just, stuff from the alpha stage, John. We've got a little bit more to talk about.
And it's still been a couple of mixed bag games, especially going after what we just saw yesterday, where we had a lot more of a competitive environment going into our first matchup between SSG Academy versus Outlast, where I think it was Connor who said it yesterday, where you could have completely blanked out the names that were playing in this match, and you might have thought that maybe the players like Snake, for example, and the rest of the crew that was on SSG Academy, like Silent, Mohes, they could have been on the side of Outlast, as for a good chunk of time, they seem to really be in the lead in terms of momentum.
And it's also one of those games where a couple different rounds go Outlast way, and they not only close out that game, they close out in regulation, 7-5, 7-4. Snake was talking about how in the interview how he thought for SSG Academy, that game should have been a 7-3 for them. Just based on the metrics, Outlast could have got a big win to start off the season. Unfortunately, didn't happen. On the other side of things, though, Osiris got a big upset win against Harry the Boats yesterday. Chalk with some of our, pro talent, ex-pro talent, big tier 2 talent. Doesn't matter. Fens and Arrow wanted to go on the IF Revenge Tour, and they completed it.
And going into 1 HP, where they quite literally had a flawless first half on border, and sure, it was Taken Kings who somewhat brought it back a little bit towards the end of the second half when they moved onto the attack, but the fact that they were never really able to slow down 1 HP, and with them being just so clinical at finding information and spotting weaknesses in that first half, it really carried them to a solid first victory.
Then, as you're watching right now, we had a fitting bookend. We started off the beta stage with a 7-1 from Dilemma Esports. We ended the first initial bout of games, the first 8, with another 7-1 at the hands of Aerial Arise against Sway. And overall, we've seen so far, sure, some of the newer teams have had a rough go at it. Sway especially, Dilemma's opponent a couple days ago as well. By and large, a lot of the teams that you haven't expected maybe to beat their opponents, Outlast, Osiris to a lesser extent, but still, have been able to not only put up great numbers, very nearly clinch victories, but even already upset some pretty big names inside of Element 1. If you want to take a look at the current leaderboards and the standings of how these first few matches have shaped up in the beta stage so far, well, it's kind of a lot all over the board. Mainly because, John, we don't have a lot of those big names that we'd expect.
And only having 1 match played total for almost every team at this point. These numbers are also large, especially in terms of the rating. You have Candle for his Dilemma matchup against FMG on day 1, map 1, heading to Villa, where it was just a clinic in the first half. They almost went completely flawless, going just 7-1 against FMG. And yeah, it had a lot to do with all of Dilemma just kind of walking in the building, clearing out the roamers because they had no fall-off points, and then they would just play a man advantage execute with a lot of time left to spare. The same thing kind of applied with Twist, like we talked about earlier on 1 HP, where you had a lot of very clinical entries because they were just being, given a lot of intel by their more supportive teammates in the first half, and that kind of transitioned into them having some really solid statistics. Even Skunky, all the way down at 5th place, still having a 1.5 rating, and that's just 5th place. That is just crazy.
Well, a lot of craziness so far, but let's talk about some of the matchups we've got not only tonight, but tomorrow as well. We've got a little bit of a mix of upper bracket and lower bracket games. 2 upper tonight, 1 lower, unfortunately, as some of you might have seen. Chalet Esports had to forfeit their match. They were not able to field a roster for today's bout, so JJ has escaped the elimination stage for the time being, and like yesterday, I said that it would have been really funny if Senvale sent JJ to elimination. Fortunately, won't see that happen, but I'm sure JJ's very happy. Then tomorrow, of course, we've got some other sets of games, but these are our standings so far, and after today, we will not only have someone joining the elimination stage alongside Shunner, but 2 people moving to the best of 3 promotion stage as well.
I believe we're going to be seeing a couple of those teams in the upper division looking to maybe qualify for that promotion best of 3. We've got Karn & Co versus 1HP, and I also believe Triple G versus Slate, which will be our second best of 1 of the day. And then, of course, we have the singular lower best of 1 matchup with, again, the wild card game being canceled due to not enough players being there for that game, like you talked about, Carter. That will be Taken Kings versus CNE. So a lot is on the line. Like we mentioned earlier, just a few days ago, how every matchup is important. That's really going to show now, since there are teams that are quite literally just matches away from being out of Element 1 completely.
And going right off of that, I mean, let's talk about our match number 1, Taken Kings versus Cinta Negra. I mean, this is a game where whoever loses it, they've only got 1 life left. They got to win best of 3s one after another in order to stay alive. And the person who wins this, they get to keep playing best of 1s for the time being. They'll be 1-1 in Element 1s, for the duration, for the foreseeable future. Whoever loses, it's do or die.
And it seemed like for both Taken Kings and CNE, a lot of the issues they had in the first best of 1 series were not only the same between both teams and their best of 1 matches, but they're also problems that can be resolved pretty easily. Just having more discipline, not being too aggressive in every situation, especially since both Taken Kings and Cinta Negra were pretty decent at the entry. I think GGG in their best of 1 matchup on Cafe against CNE, they had a weaker entry scoreline in comparison to CNE, but because they were still throwing bodies in the mid round when they already had the man advantage, they were still losing a lot of rounds where they quite frankly shouldn't have.
And I'm glad you brought that up. Let's throw up Taken King's roster and talk about one of the main bright spots, one of the only bright spots in their game yesterday, which was their entries specifically on attack. They were down 6-0 at the half going into their attacking side on border, and it seemed like it was not going to go anywhere close to a victory. And to be fair, they did end up losing in regulation 4-7, but those 4 rounds, in no small part, were not only won, but they almost made that comeback because of their entries on the attack and maintaining a solid differential over 1 HP their opponents, and having the ability to pinch out isolated roamers, take good engagements off site. That took an 0-6 start to their attacking half and made it a comeback that honestly I thought was going to continue until we got to overtime.
Especially to harp on your point of just having a couple of round wins in that first half going a long way. There were a lot of positions where you had Taken King starting out in a pretty decent position, going back to round number 1, where their Azami of Raiwai had wasted a fair amount of time as Azami playing top east. Then they fell back into office. Their Mute had ran out triple wall from the rotate. If that wall had just been reinforced and they both held office together, they could have wasted more time and had more players to defend against the site execute. But with that not happening, everything just kind of fell apart at the seams after the first minute mark when they lost Mute from a poorly timed and executed run out. Same thing kind of applies to, I think it was round 4 where several people ran out from that balcony, but I think it was the break room door. Yeah, just crazy shenanigans like that once in a while. They go a long way, especially when you just go 0-6 in the first half.
And moving over to our other team, CNE, this is one that you specifically casted, John, on the first day of Element 1. This team, alongside Sway that I casted yesterday, at least, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, feel free to disagree with me, but those two teams feel a little bit kind of like they're kind of the new blood that are being outclassed by their opponents. Not that there's nothing positive going on, in fact, far from that, but it seems like kind of those two teams and CNE in front of us, they're a little outclassed right now.
And I think a lot of that has to do with just the general play styles that differ between most American teams and moving a little bit lower into Latin America is the amount of aggression you see between both just the top of America and then going into Latin, whereas a lot more aggression playing inside of Latin America, which is probably why we saw a lot of overextending by CNE against Triple G. They were just getting way too aggressive, expecting maybe more isolated 1-for-1s. And when that didn't happen, and when you had everyone on Triple G firing on all cylinders, even in the late round, it left them in either even positions that were kind of neutral and Triple G still had a lot of time to play into that execute and set up properly to maybe go for the objective, or they would just get flatlined completely. So just knowing when to hit that reset button, like you mentioned specifically, Carter, it's going to go a long way. For the moment for TK as well, just trying to replicate that same thing. We might need to see a lot more passivity from both these teams because there was just a lot of crazy stuff happening between the both of them and their best of 1s.
Well, we've got two relative outsiders in North America, one coming from the collegiate scene, one coming more from the Latin America scene, as John mentioned. But let's see where they are doing battle today. We have our map veto done. I have to imagine, yup, CNE take down border very quickly after taking Kings. Admittedly, did lose it, but their attacking half did look scary enough that it warrants a ban.
I wonder if we'll have any more, I suppose, default bans being taken off the board, as if you don't really have a lot of good bookwork on your opponents, it could be really convenient just going to a map like Oregon and just kind of playing your heart out. Maybe even some of that aggression could actually benefit a map like Oregon, and yeah, it seems like TK will just opt to remove that in their 5th one. Skyscrapers and Theme Park following immediately after. I feel like we have seen a lot more Skyscrapers specifically in play, but there are still a lot of teams that just opt to have that as a target ban. And there we have it. Another day of Element 1 where we start out with Chalet in our best of 1 series. What are your initial thoughts on this map selection, Carter?
Well, if we're looking at the Border game yesterday, which obviously Chalet has a little bit more structure than Border, but both tend to be a bit more aggressive and much more simplistic in comparison to other maps in the pool, like, say, a bank or a cafe that we saw in the ladder that we saw yesterday, and also saw CNE play back on day number 1. I think this is a map, especially with Taken King starting on defense, that CNE could find themselves netting quite a few rounds in a row. They did have a decent showing against GGG, especially for how good of a team GGG is on paper and how new of a team CNE is, at least to us watching and the teams they've been playing. And they're the ones that get to start out on attack, where that aggression that they have could catch a Taken Kings team who so far in Chalet so far in Element 1 have a very poor defensive rating. They could find themselves with the momentum very early on.
Seems like a majority of us are kind of on the boat that Taken Kings should theoretically be coming on top in this best 1 series. Even the coin flip has been agreeing, although they've kind of had a rough start so far to Element 1. And I think a lot of that has to do with what you mentioned earlier, Carter, is the fact that if there were just a couple of rounds where there was a little bit more passivity or just playing together as a team and not being so vulnerable to those one-on-one engagements, even during the late run as well, where you had people like Twist that were just lurking from up above to then get some hatch coverage and killing someone because of that, and they are more focused on down below. Having more round wins like that on the defense could have been a completely different outcome for Taken Kings. And even the social prediction kind of favors that as well for Taken Kings. So it seems like CNA has kind of turned into the underdogs for the storyline.
I definitely think there's a good chance they could, even if they don't end up winning it, make this a very close affair for game 1 of the night. We're getting into it right now. Again, it's Taken Kings versus Cinta Negra on Chalet. Taken Kings starting out with the bans. Have to imagine, take down some operator that would enable aggression on the attack, and taking down the Ying first and foremost. John, I think this is just a very common, a very solid start for Taken Kings in the ban phase.
I was a little shocked on Border that they wanted to ban Ying as well, especially since they were still bringing out Warden quite a lot. Maybe it was just for the 1.5 and Nitro Cell combination or a shield. That's fair enough, but a lot of situations you want to run Ward instead, just because of that potential threat of a Ying or an operator like them, where they can just have a lot of utility to force someone out of a power position. So hopefully we don't see that kind of replicate unless you are really just using Warden for the 1.5 crutch. Besides that, you've got Thatcher taken off the board, so a lot more utility can last for a good chunk of time. Solus being banned, that's just because she is really good on most maps, this one in particular, and the Mira as well, which has a lot of use in almost every single bomb site. She's really good at helping your extensions into Dining Room, for example, when you play up above into the master side of the map. She's really good at posting up mirror windows by mezzanine, so there's just more utility the attackers have to deal with. And there's a couple other specific spots, like in bar, where she's also very viable. So she's a ban that makes a lot of sense given the context of what map we're playing.
This also does mean, though, that 3 of those big defensive operators right now will make it through the pool. Valkyrie and Azami, of course, but now joined by Fenrir with his introduction into the competitive scene. Burnt Turkey will make very good use of him early on, starting out on the basement site on the bomb floor. I have to imagine not only will some of those black eye cameras be stationed off-site, but some of those F-Knots as well, just to aid anybody holding that hatch specifically. You could find a good position for the F-Knot, maybe over by West Main or inside a trophy, so that way anybody watching that hatch trying to contest the wine breach from the middle floor has a bit of intel in case somebody decides to try to push them from the back or clear them out.
Wow. I was going to say, I thought Scoop got that kill too, man. That was insane if that was the case. It was JetCon to score the opening kill onto the Thermite. That leaves no hard breach left for CNE, and it's only been 20 seconds. Yeah, sure, you lost JetCon, but that's not really a big deal when almost every other operator in this composition by Taken Kings can still roam and waste plenty of time against the attacks, immediate picking points into round number 1. So still having to deal with this library extension and also not having a Heartbreach for late round, this is really going to cripple CNE for the rest of round 1.
And it's one of those positions where bringing a hard breach charge would have been a very good insurance policy for Luxor. Sure, you wouldn't have any flashes or smokes of any kind in theory if you wanted to change some other operators. But if you have those hard breach charges, you can still accomplish the main goal of opening up that garage breach, mainly allowing for some release pressure, making sure nobody can use garage as a pathway to rotate. Now, the flashes are good, and I'm sure Luxor will put them to good use. This was definitely a case where some insurance policies would have been good to have on file. Ooh, a nice nade. Some insurance claimed. Gladius able to bring the man advantage back. Atlas also finding himself in a very good position. Could have either cut off the rotation of that defender on side of Mezzanine or take down Wumbo on Fireplace Stairs, unfortunately, for that Yana, though. Capcan catches him completely off guard, and we're back to a stalemate.
Interested to see if there's any info on Scoob's position. I believe Luxor is aware there could be someone still playing down by the bar area of the map, so they'll take some time to gather extra info and just guarantee that as a matter of fact. So really good patience here by CNE, just to make sure no one can hit a flank at the last second and make things complete chaos when you go into those final 60 seconds, especially since you still have plenty of time and options to gather vertical, but Scoob just doesn't care. He barges into Luxor's position, shuts him down, and there's no chance of getting a trade as he's managed to get back down below, and that's taken Kings with the man advantage.
A brutal loss, too. I have to admire the patience from CNE. The Yana and the Buck trying to cut off these roamers' rotations back to the site, but they're being punished for it, just losing gunfights, losing health to gadgets. At least the Sledge has the diffuser available, but on 1 HP, this is not a 1v3. He is winning. This might just be an effective tactical timeout in round number 1. If he'll try to take the fight, he's got to deal with Wumbo and Scoob. Though Wumbo is a bit closer to this engagement, Capcan gets too aggressive. Gladius might be able to take him down before Scoob can go in for the trade. He'll push up. Scoob ready and waiting, though, but the pre-fire is too solid. 1 bullet of HP. Gladius wasn't making it out of that one unless a massive throw was on the cards. And that doesn't happen as Taken Kings take round 1.
Really got to commend the Valkyrie as well for kind of realizing that with there being someone up above, someone else watching their fallback position over by the mud doorway, that the best option is to just kind of go for those isolated 1-for-1s and hope you can win them. And with that happening, that's the man advantage now secured for Taken Kings. And again, with JetCon finding such an important opening kill onto the Thermite, they have to kind of funnel down into these staircases like snowmobile stairs from the main area of the map, or even blue, since there was really no activity by West Main. So that was a solid decision, or I guess a solid choice by Taken Kings, and really good timing on that as well to acknowledge when it was the best moment to go in for that 1-for-1, and also when to fall back and just play the site.
Taken Kings also now have that 1 defensive win. Be nice to have a little bit more, but defense typically being the disadvantaged side on Chalet, and Taken Kings starting out on the side that they were worse on yesterday in their game against 1 HP. Getting 2-3 rounds here total might be enough. Again, not to throw in the towel for the rest of the half, but to say, all right, maybe we can get a little aggressive, take some risks in those later few rounds. We already have a bit of a cushion to rely on. But look, they're looking for right now, after that win on Garage, now to net a victory in Master Bedroom and Office. Some extensions down below to make CNE have even deeper of a hole to climb out of.
Wondering where Amaru's going to go in this case. Maybe trying to hook up the, I guess, trophy hatch and then walk up Solar. That would be the most likely option. Although there are a couple other places like, God, I hope I'd hope not Solar
Really?
Window. But that'd be a very direct and very loud way to try to get on this top floor and maybe cause some action. Yeah, it looks like that's going to happen, Carter.
Well, Luxor goes straight on in, and Scoob is just waiting. Though CNE do become the better of those trades. 4v3. Again, 2 rounds in a row now. They've attained that advantage, at least for a temporary amount of time. This time, the lead widens, though. 4v2 now, and Crispino might just be able to get that bomb down inside of the site. They've got all these angles covered. The 2 remaining defenders down below, and now making a very risky march up Solar. Burnt turkey not long for this world. JetCon C4 went wild early. CNE's execute right on point. Laser beam shot by JetCon. Need to land 3 more and a defuse at that. Stop CNE from matching Taken King's round win with one of their own. They know he's over. Marching up that fireplace stairs. All guns trained on the piano double door. Couple shots already taken down. At least JetCon's got a black eye in pocket. Maybe some quick heads-up info while he takes an engagement next. I don't think it'll get him a lot. Ooh! Again, another nice shot on the prone angle. He's boosted his stats by 2, but CNE have boosted their rounds by 1.
And sometimes it can be pretty advantageous to go for those kind of aggressive plays. Even more so when your opponents don't have a lot of bookwork on you, so they might not be expecting those kind of plays. And when they're more focused on extending very far away from the bomb site, that gives them less bodies to work with. You've got the lion scan, so not many defenders can really move back and reposition to better tackle that Amaru push. And I believe they even had someone like Gladius who's on the cutoff angle by Master double window. So that also limits kind of the, I guess, insurance policy that Taken Kings might have had if there was a bigger lack of, I suppose, a bigger lack of coordination that we saw there by CNE back around number 2. So although it was a bit of a gamble strat, and the original part of it, the Amaru rush and Solar, that part didn't work. Everything else went perfectly to plan, and then they just took somebody else to fill in that position, and everything seemed fine afterwards.
Taken Kings scared after that initial rush, though moving down to kitchen and dining. Have to imagine, John, you won't see something similar, though we did see an Amaru rush happen on this bomb site yesterday in the SSG Academy game with an Amaru going up the trophy hatch, as you mentioned at the beginning of last round. But no Amaru on the board, no Sens on the board, which you typically see with that strat. So I'm disappointed as well. But Cinta Negra with that Osa, they're just looking to go for the standard breach on side of dining. You know, open that up, set a Talon shield to watch. They're not going for anything crazy, anything fancy, but they're going by the book.
CNE looks like they at least have a couple of operators to help with that immediate library extension. Best case scenario, you get into the building in the next few seconds after you have info that no one's really playing that aggressive. Try to get that back wall opened up, looking into offices. And because you have 2 vertical players, I could imagine they want to, tackle this extension a little bit more aggressively instead of solely relying on getting that main wall opened up in the dining room and playing off those Osa Talon shields. And with the fact that Victory has 2 of those Talon shields, you could expend one down below to help with the post plant and put one up above to make it a bit more challenging for Taken Kings to go for some of those gunfights once this wall gets opened up. And because it's soft, well, the offense is going to have really no hassle dealing with that, even though there's no wall denial. So even if it was reinforced, Crispino wouldn't have really taken that much trouble to it.
Probably could have, just to make sure, maybe use the skeleton key just to be safe, but hey, I appreciate the passion. I appreciate the gumption. Burnt Turkey, though, does have a long angle thanks to that Kiba barrier through the office wall onto the new balcony. Some players from CNE looking to get aggressive. They opened this window, but JetCon looking to get aggressive after that spawn peek in round 1. He's spotted on the drone, though. Can't do it right now. Oh! Kiba placed just in time to give him some cover, and also quickly dispatched by Atlas with that lifeline. Also cut a hole straight through this bedroom position. Burnt Turkey downed on the floor, finished off by the Zofia. Wumbo caught reloading, and the Zofia takes out the pistol. Switching to your secondary, always faster than reloading, but CNE very quick and very decisive on this top floor clear.
Ooh, Scoob shut down as well. Nice shot by Victory to find that trade, leaving only Rai, no Nitrocell, and no teammates to assist him, with over a minute for CNE to get this vertical down, with Gladius still alive and active with that sledgehammer. And to gather intel, there's still a lot of drones on the board here, forcing Tenegra, and they even have, I guess, an active shield of the Osa to try to challenge this. Atlas drops down from below, and that's CNE with yet another round win on the attack after a clinical clear starting out from that highway balcony.
We're going to see more decisive clears like that. I'll completely forget round number 1 even happened. We might be in for a very solid attacking half if CNE have those kinds of plans in mind. Of course, now basement is unlocked, so Taken Kings can go back down, play this site the way they wanted to. And to be sure, Taken Kings set the pace when they played this site last time. JetCon was able to jump out, kill the Thermite right off the rip. And whatever plan CNE had going into that 3 minutes, it completely changed the moment their only hard breacher hit the ground outside of Chalet right off the rip. With no exothermics in play, it's wraps at that point, so there was no backup hard breaching. Here, who knows if they'll bring a Thermite or go for the ace or go for a front side or a backside take. All we're looking for right now, just make it off spawn. Don't lose a body immediately, and then let's see if once they're allowed to get in the building and maybe even grab a man advantage without somebody from Taken Kings taking it right back, maybe CNE have another solid roam clear like we just saw on kitchen and dining.
You might see more of an emphasis on the big garage side of the map. That could be hinted at because Victory is, of course, on the Nomad. You'll see positions like, West Main Stairs being air jabbed off. You might save a couple for post plant perhaps. And even if you go and get dining control to play off that hatch, you'd also put one down by 45 as well. So that could be the main idea for CNE. And yeah, based off of where the ace of Crispino's playing at, seems like that will be the forefront of this attack here in round number 4. And maybe if they want to have someone lurk across the map later on, you could either have the Selma charge for the main breach of Snowmobile, or you could just have someone walk down either blue stairs or the backside of main stairs. And wow, in the first 40 seconds, the shield is already gone because there's just no utility to assist it. So already positions like Pillar are significantly weaker. And now that they have the cutoff angle established too, this is going to be a pretty challenging spot for Taken Kings.
Maybe a symptom of Jaeger no longer having that barbed wire. You just got to fit some other different operators into the lineup. Who knows, really? But exactly, as you said, no Jaeger, no Wamai on the board. That shield's now gone, but so are members of CNE dropping like flies. Luxor now hopping in all by himself right into a crossfire. Again, I admire the passion, but I think you gotta hit the reset button and accept sometimes when a battle is won just to maybe win the war later on. Victory's found one playing behind that pillar. Pull out the nade to try to win this save engagement, but Scoob's read that. He might die, but he's given his team a 4v1 now. And likely the second round for Taken Kings, though Burnt Turkey caught lacking. Wumbo, he knew how this round was going to end the moment he put down those EDDs.
And although we've seen TK be very effective on this basement floor bomb site, simply off of their initial roam, whether it's killing an important operator like the Thermite, the only hard breach back in round number 1, or just flatlining the entire clear on the first floor so you could still theoretically play on that hatch, or even flank if you want to, since I believe it was the Nomad who was the first person to die just last round. Even though we've seen how effective Taken Kings can be on the defense, we've also seen them at their low points, in particular on Dining Room, where you had Atlas just playing on the highway balcony the entire round, and he got almost 3 kills just sitting there. He got 2 and then pushing in later in the round with the help of Victor around Osa. He then found another one in that round. And yeah, it was just a lights out performance by CNE. So now it looks like off of their composition, this time they want to run a bunch of utility, just slowing down CNE and giving them more options to hold onto this top floor for, like I said, as long as they can, just to make sure they have more opportunities to take engagements and who knows, maybe even stop an entire push coming down from that top floor, because you just don't have enough seconds to really get down the proper vertical to then help enhance your execute once the breach is open.
Especially now that Taken Kings knows where some of those CNE players like to play from, specifically Atlas, playing that bathroom window position as Zofia. Some of those defenders will likely keep a particular eye on that once they hear bullets start going through that barricade. Say, all right, you know what happened last time? Got 2 kills with 2 different weapons. Don't want to give away our lives as easily as we did last time, because it turned from a 5v5 to a 5v2 very quickly and favored CNE. Taken Kings didn't really have a good avenue back into that round. Gladius looking to take an engagement early on with a player sitting on side that mezzanine balcony. He's got the nades to do it. Only one with them on the attack right now. Those magnets, they're looking to take advantage of any poorly coordinated utility clear by the attack. The rest of the team will still wait. Ooh, what a position Luxor has worked himself in. He's got intel on that player top mez, but JetCon's watching for it. Waiting for the buck to peek over the stairs. Is he going to retreat? He might have an opportunity to take an advantage, but everyone from CNE is biding their time, and now JetCon drops down. There's one just around the corner. He'll have to sprint away, and Luxor, oh no! Isn't able to cut it off. Gladius, neither! JetCon gets away with highway robbery, despite taking the vast majority of that damage.
And that was a great time to hop off as well. Best case scenario, Gladius still has a nade being cooked in his hand, so he finds a free kill off of that and then still gets out into the bomb site, but he still got out with his life. Sadly, Wumbo will not be as lucky playing up above by that office breach. Sure, he was able to fall off that deployable shield, but not away from this clear entirely. And Atlas, playing on the solar repel, almost finds himself a pretty nice freebie as well. So far, this clear has been all right for CNE, but with that Vulcan pack detonating right in the face of Gladius and with him already being tagged, well, he is lights out. And Atlas is still holding solar window, and I guess Burnt Turkey did not get the memo from that, and Scoob will be the only person left to man this top floor, and he might be forced to fall back considering how many bodies are right beside him.
Oh, there's somebody outside Trophy as well.
Wow.
Gotta win this fight with Atlas, or at least stay alive. A lot of stim pistols, too, specifically to get himself back to full HP, but Victory knows he's there. The prone angle's not fooling the Osa whatsoever. JetCon now sprinting back to site for the second time in round 5, but under much different circumstances before. every one of his teammates was still alive, and now he's the only one left. Gets one kill, that's the Osagon, just as she planted the Talon Shield. Raspino hasn't made it to the site yet with the AK-12 or with the Diffuser, but Luxor's made it back in from short. Clinch out round 3 for CNE.
And that initial clear still only took about a minute 30 for the Wamai playing top mez. And after that, there wasn't as much utility as I would have expected over by Office and even Piano, for example. So once they dealt with that initial threat and eliminated Wumbo, it seemed like the rest of Taken Kings were really forced to try to play for more of those fall-off positions instead, and with CNE kind of breeding into that.
You know what I noticed?
What? What did you notice, Carter?
There were a lot of people getting shot through soft walls that round.
Yeah, you know, I figured that too.
And you know what? Taken Kings had 2 reinforcements in pocket.
I wonder what wall they could have reinforced.
Perhaps... Oh, but what wall is Scoob reinforcing right now? Oh! Interesting. We'll just leave that. We'll just leave that there. Little tidbit. Anyway.
A good tidbit to bring up, I'd like to say. Because if that had been reinforced, maybe Atlas's position wouldn't have been as potent. Because he did kill, like, 2 people there. Or almost kill 2 and get 1, yeah.
Yeah, killed one guy there and trapped the doc there on Solar Stairs.
Yeah, and then got off the rappel to play the trophy cut. Atlas was dangerous on the cut.
Atlas cut off the dock from Solar Rappel, got off Solar Rappel to go to Trophy Window, and cut off the dock again.
Bro is not letting him off the hook.
Dude, he's still got the Zofia 1 armor patch. That's crazy. He's still a 3-speed. I can't believe it.
If you think you can run faster with the pistol out, then surely it must be a fact.
Mind over matter, John. Mind over matter.
Absolutely.
Well, final round for both of these teams on these respective sides. Taken King still, even this 3-3, that is by no means a poor half. Just so happens the only site they've had success on has been Garage, and CNE have made pretty quick work of most of the setups that Taken Kings have put forth towards the attack. Luxor also, you got to commend CNE, have consistently throughout these rounds very quickly got into position to cut off the defenders. It's not always been successful. But Luxor already trying to deal with that player on Solar Stairs by looking up through Garage. Atlas down below as well. Look at this. A minute in, and he's looking to nade Wumbo through the floor. Acting off just a couple seconds late of intel, though. Unable to land it, but that's why they give him 2. That's why he's got a second chance of redemption. Well, hopefully third time's the charm next round if he gets some of those grenades.
Well, can't even. Let's just see overtime, perhaps. He'll be stuck with a C4, so might have some of that be played out later on. Plenty of vertical still being done, trying to flush out these players up above in the bomb site, but Luxor hasn't found any success either. And there's actually a drone by 45, so he knows someone's trying to flank him. That could be a pretty bloody way to start out this round, and it seems like Rai did win first initial gunfight from the flank, but it's not going to be the Buck. Instead, it's Iana, so there's potential for that trade, but if it was Rai's decision, he might just try to, bounce out. Oh, he's actually from up above. That's crazy.
Taken King still firmly on top of this round. CNE now down 4-2. Make that 3-1 victory, just cutting his losses, sending it on in. Raspino outside the building with a minute left. He's got 2 flashes to give himself an advantageous gunfight. Knows that someone might be watching those holes, but oh no, the Goyo's not looking. It's all good though. Site's still on the 2nd floor, so there's a lot of movement the Hibana has to go through. Flash lands, they know that someone's pushing up Solar, and well, there's 1 guy alive and 4 people dead, so that really narrows it down a little bit. Finds a pixel angle through the Kiba, but still yet to find a defender. Just hears the 9mm, that Frost around the corner, pops the Goyo. He popped the Goyo himself, switched to the secondary. Oh, a very quick engagement. He lands it nonetheless. But now 1 HP and 2 defenders all around him. 20 seconds left, Taken Kings. Just hold back. Play the time. You know, if he's got to go in and plant, you can just land 1 shot and it's done, but doesn't matter. Scoob's got the long angle. He's got the 3rd round for Taken Kings. That makes it an even half.
And it was Rai, I believe, just using the vertical angle that the Buck had made earlier to find that kill. It wasn't him hitting some nasty flank. But after we saw that 1 kill be confirmed by Taken Kings, it did seem a little bit more relaxed by them, just holding spots, waiting for CNE to make the first move, whether it be hopping into Solar Window, where we saw Rai also kill the Osa, who vaulted like 20 feet, it looked like at one point, and also making sure that the pressure over my bathroom could also be suppressed if need be. Taken Kings just on their final round of defense didn't really overcomplicate much, and once again we're just waiting for their opponents to kind of fall into what they were bringing out from just the prep phase. So still the 3-3 half, not too shabby for either side, And now we've got CNE starting off the rip on Master with, I'd say at least a fair emphasis on a roam extension, but they also have a lot of operators that could still help enable an anchor if it were to be necessary once those extensions by Mezzanine, for example, need to fall away.
My eyes are certainly towards taking Kings in this round because CNE, we have a decent amount of tape on them from the qualifiers, both the open and the closed. Taking Kings were an invited team, so the first game we saw them play was yesterday against 1HP. Their defenses, very poor. Their attacks, on the other hand, very solid, as we mentioned at the top of the show. Now, Chalet and Border do play differently, despite them having some similarities. But I want to see how Taken Kings start this half because they got 3 rounds on typically the disadvantaged side on Chalet, and their entry game was quite clinical, especially against defenders too far away from the bomb site or just in isolated positions that might be traditionally accepted within the bounds of a strategy. And right now, Crespino's pushed pretty far up in Library.
Yeah, I wonder if Scoob could nade him below, because they know he's tucked. Now I think Crespino is worried about that, so he's looking to play a little bit more aggressive, making sure no one can hop in through that window to actually blow him up. And Atlas, playing over by Mezzanine, is going to shut down Ryra. I believe he was trying to lurk from the side of main, if not maybe by blue stairs, so that's a really important opening kill just to prolong this extension across the map. Jetcon and Scoob are now working together, trying to figure out, well, how do we deal with these ADSs and magnets? Most likely case, they're not going to be able to. They don't really have a lot of burn to get rid of Crespino, so they'll need someone else to help assist them, and that's where Wumbo comes into effect, throwing out a Cludge drone here and there, or just maybe thinking of hopping in to get a 50-50 gunfight. That seems way too dangerous, but oh, they work together to fight him, and Scoob kills both the players up above with the help of Jetcon as well. Victory's right next to him, though, but he can't get out in time. A masterful play by Taking Kings just to walk in and play numbers.
What a gambit right there. A play that by all metrics should not have worked. And yet it gets Taken Kings the round in all likelihood. Somebody's got to heat check Scoob in round 8, because after that, this Yana is going to feel invincible the rest of these attacks.
You'd really think after killing the guy Fireplace, it'd be a much more A and B kind of concept of dealing with them pushing in from the library side of the map, but I guess it was just too much to handle. Having 3 people hop in all at the same time, 2 from library and 1 from down below. Once Crespino's taken care of, it's the Omai who also might need to worry if there's someone holding his cutoff angle from, the office balcony, for example. So I guess his only option in his mind was to either fall out from Fireplace or take a gunfight and get the man advantage back. He went for the ladder, and that also didn't work out. So although Taken Kings didn't have enough utility, essentially, to deal with that library extension, they still made ends meet just by throwing bodies at the problem and catching CNE completely by surprise, which, when we talked about it earlier, them being a more aggressive team, I am really bewildered that they weren't kind of expecting that kind of aggression.
Got a hand Taken Kings for executing it properly. You mentioned there was no burn whatsoever to deal with those ADSs, and with only a minute into the round, they're like, all right, we just got to cut our losses. There's no, let's not dance around it. Let's not try to make this cleaner than it can be. We just got to do what we can do, and it worked out. Very good job for Taken Kings to start out. And Scoop picking up a nice 3K, and again, showing these entries definitely should be worried about if you're playing against Taken Kings. The defense now moving down to Bar and Games. And I doubt Taken Kings be worried all that much, because it's going to be a very similar setup to what we just saw on an office defense. A couple players are on library, on top of the stairs, on top of mezzanine, and this time, Crespino's nowhere near the library position. Luxor on the Jaeger, he isn't either. So Taken Kings, this is not a new thing to deal with whatsoever.
Now they got a Flores on the board. So dealing with, the ADSs with some flashes and dealing with those, zombie Kibas and even a playable shield brought up by Gladius on the Thorn is going to be a lot more, I guess, doable for Taken Kings. Pretty easy to accomplish that task so long as, their drones just don't keep getting shot by the guy who's playing behind this main Kiba. Gemini comes out just to guarantee no one else is tucked in the corner, and they can just solely focus in on this player in the back of Mez. And I believe they even have the Sledge close up by as well. So the same 1-2 punch that we saw kind of brewed up last round for Taken Kings is being replicated once again, except, again, they have the right tools for the job this time to force back CNE.
Paradrone gets shot, and Rybai's got only 1 left. Jetcon working a different angle. There are barricades in his way, though, so he'll give away his position. Ooh, big kill by Burnt Turkey right there. Sitting on the Heaven window, takes down 1, but Atlas gets 2 in turn. The library clear with guns alone. It's not working in round 8. A 3K for the Wamai. This Mez position much more solid than it was in round 7. Taken Kings just try to brute force their way through. They are punished for trying to make lightning strike twice. Ryrai's position is known outside on this balcony, and Atlas, he knows he can just sit behind this Kiba. Ryrai's only got one Rotero to deal with it too, so if he still wants to push through that way, yeah, if it gets shot, it's wraps. What is he to do? Perhaps just sit outside, John, take a timeout. I mean, even diffusers dropped inside the building. Where the hell is he going to go?
Suppose the lurk up their snowmobile stairs is his best case scenario to catch someone by surprise. Maybe hop into the bomb site, stir the pot a bit, but like you mentioned, no diffuser, no chance of planting. And when everyone's playing up above, oh yeah, these vertical angles just far too challenging and not even aware that Atlas was still playing above by that position. Pretty straightforward round win for CNE after having a pretty flawless extension on that top floor. And that kind of begs the question, do they want to reattempt going master because they could replicate a similar extension, or do they go somewhere else? It seems like they'll opt to go for the second option. I thought it was going to be snowmobile for a second, which you can still roam quite a lot by the library side of the map and even the top and middle floor, but they'll opt to go for dining room instead, where the same answer can be said for this site, where you can roam a little bit over by library, but it's not too taxing because you can fall back a bit closer to master, have a lot more utility set up in that position to kind of thrive over there. And if, worst comes to worst, you can fall back down below and play towards the bomb site. And when you have an operator like Gladius on the castle, that also allows for those cutoff angles to not be as potent, which we have seen both Taken Kings and CNE try to utilize on their attacks.
Just forces them to use a lot more utility as well. They got to take the time to open up those castle barricades, use a Gone 6, use an Ash Charge, use a Rotero drone if they wanted to bring it. So Taken Kings, don't see those castle barricades in time, might find themselves lacking a bit of that utility. And look at it right now. Don't have too many explosives, at least in the way of stuff you'd want to use on castle barricades. Those grenades that Scoob has, you'd want to clear out positions with that. Those Ash Charges, all right, you can use those castle barricades, but there's a deployable shield and a bulletproof on the board as well. And we're getting to the point where we might need to start using Selma Charges to clear out some of this destructive utility. We'll just have to see if that's what ends up necessitated by CNE's defense.
Seems like JetCon's already deployed one Ash Charge, and we heard a Gone 6 in the background from most likely Rai on Buck. And yeah, that was for the initial castle barricade and probably some other important piece of utility that was placed across the map as well. And the one nifty thing that Taken Kings can use for a Buck in comparison to Sledge is having that ranged verticality. You can just play down below, use that skeleton key, and look directly above, all the way from Owl, if you really wanted to, by that doorway leading in the bathroom from playing by Big Garage. So Rai, if timing this correctly, could surprise somebody who's up above and find a kill almost for free without any major repercussions of someone trying to find a trade on him. But Crispino, he heard the Buck entering from down below, so he's got the rattiest angle with a TCSG. So if the Buck kind of overextends and walks into his position, well, he's probably dead, not expecting this angle.
Let's see how long Crispino decides to hold on to this. All right, he gives it up right now. And Gladius doesn't give away the engagement. Takes it. Burnt Turkey, the ace down. Ooh, JetCon made quick work of the explosive reservoir held by Taken Kings, dropping by the second. The stonks are dropping so quickly for their chances. All right, he picks up one. He picks up two. Can he make it three? Well, he just might. Victory on low HP. We had a CNE round seemingly tightened in a bow. Now the winds might have shifted, and fortune might just favor Taken Kings. A minute, 10 seconds left. JetCon, sorry, not JetCon. Scoob still has both of his nades. Ryrai's got all three of his flashes. There are two C4s I got to worry about, though Crispino just tossed one, likely up to the bottom floor. And the one player who's low HP for CNE, well, that's the remaining roamer on the top floor as well. There's that owl angle, John. All right, tries to use it a little late. Catch the defense off guard, but nobody's there. Scoob now working his way up, but Victory keeping a secret, keeping quiet. Does Scoob check it? No, he doesn't! Victory, despite the low HP, he's got it. They now know Ryrai's position outside a trophy. Everyone holding a crossfire on that window. A 3K for the Buck, but that's all she wrote. CNE, they take that lead 5-4.
And I liked how Rai and Scoob were trying to work together in a sense to deal with that one isolated roamer. You had your Buck of Rai playing down below, holding the cutoff by Owl. And then you had your Ayana playing up above, slowly face checking every other position. that the one Valkyrie could be on the top floor, but that was the bigger issue, is that once you get past that owl cutoff, the buck can no longer assist you, and you're still just at the end of the day face checking something. With there being basically no info on the board besides that one Gemini replicator and a drone left in Yana's back pocket, and with her being the person clearing the top floor, she can't gather info. She kind of walked in, somewhat aware of where the Valkyrie could be, but not 100% sure. That grants another 1v1, and then the rest of CNE can just refocus their attention back to the basement where they last heard of rivalry's position. He then walks to the trophy, tries to go for a Hail Mary play, and it doesn't work out. And now, because of that mitigation by CNE in round 9, they get the round advantage, and they're looking to potentially score map point, depending on how well this master site can pan out for them.
CNE just seeming a step ahead of the Taken Kings so far. Thought maybe the 3-3 half might spell poorly for CNE's defenses, but they've seemed like the better team in a decent bit of these rounds. And whether it's attack or defense, CNE, if they've gained an advantage, they're usually not just getting one kill. It's 2 or 3 all in the span of a few seconds, all their dominoes falling one after another. And it's that point where Taken Kings have yet to find an answer for. How do you stop a tidal wave the moment it hits the beach? How do you stop all of it? I'm not sure yet. It doesn't seem that Taken Kings have the answer either. Oh! An opportunity for an opening pick. Seen and now gone. Luxor on 1 HP, but that man is still alive.
Thankfully, still able to use those Toxic Babes so long as no other point of damage is dealt towards him, as he is now very low from 2 separate angles across the map by, well, I think it was Scoob and then Rai towards the very end, dealing a majority of that HP off his board. Now it seems for Taken Kings, they're still looking for this library overtake, and Atlas just walks right past the Kiba barrier and gets flattened by Jetcon. Although he's low in HP, that's still plenty of map control Taken Kings can now utilize. Also having someone work up from blue stairs, so it's going to be a lot more difficult for the rest of CNE to try to slow down this push from really building up, and now that leaves them only positions like Piano and the bomb site itself off offices, and now those ADS is gone, it's also going to be much easier to push into a position like Piano since there's only, you know, one Kiba left, and I think they just blown that up to a Flores drone. Yeah, I did exactly that. So this is a really tricky spot for CNE to really challenge.
You got to play on that black wall position. Pray you can head glitch behind that Piano, but Taken Kings have taken so much control so quickly and already pushed these defenders back. One Dokubi call goes out. Wumbo still has one in pocket. Scoob still got both those grenades as well. 1:15 at this point. That's an eternity to work these remaining angles. You can send Scoob upstairs, try to take down Crispino or Victory in either of those positions. Once you start taking that down too, you can walk in, get a plant behind the half wall. It's all set up for a Taken Kings plant in Victory soon after. They just need to take it. Just need to land that utility, land those shots. Toxic Canister goes out, so it will choke off Burnt Turkey's entry for the time being. Rai gets 1 kill. Gladius now down, but that still leaves Luxor on 1 HP as easy pickings for the attack. Wumbo goes down, but not finished off. Burnt Turkey's just made his way on in. He's dodged the smoke. It missed. Nobody from CNE knows. Didn't even need to kill Victory or Crispino. Once Luxor goes down, they plant the diffuser back off. A big 2K from Crispino. Back to back, he's able to get 2, one after another. Doesn't check the case behind him, though. And that big heat-up moment cools down soon after as Taken Kings tie the game again.
And not giving any time for CNE to recover in that position as well. Once they got library control, they started putting down a lot of utility over by Piano, weakening the main position you want to use most of the time to stop a plant from going down over by the office side of the map. That, and of course, by the rotate between both sites with Luxor on the smoke like we just saw last round. And with the smoke already being very low in HP, he couldn't be as perfect with the placement of his Toxic Babes. That still allowed Taken Kings to get into the site, plant the diffuser, and with a man advantage, and like you mentioned, the amount of map control and assertion they had in the round, Taken Kings just made it light work, essentially. If we had seen Atlas maybe spend a little bit more of a time crunch and a bit more of a utility crunch over by Library, that could have been a slightly different outcome. But either way, still for Taken Kings playing off of how well of an early round they had, that's still more of the impressive matter of the fact from the 10th round.
Dangerous spot, though, John. Dangerous spot for Taken Kings, because CNE, Office is the only site they've lost so far, and Taken Kings have won it twice, but Bar, Dining, it's gone CNE's way. If Taken Kings can't break from that trend, or if CNE just force their hand, win these next 2 rounds, that's regulation for CNE. and an upset victory given the poll earlier. We'll need to see Taken Kings win one of those sites lost before, either guarantee overtime or to win a victory of their own in regulation. Is barring games, as you can see, and I have to imagine based on these positions, we'll see rivalry use some utility over by library. By and large, Taken Kings will try to push this from the northern side.
Wumbo on the Grim as well. Maybe getting into, the piano and office side of the map. Having the secondary breach as well. It's probably going to be used to help deal with the person by top blue. And then if you have any excess utility, maybe dealing with mezzanine as well. That's not a bad idea whatsoever. And then if you're able to clear out all those ADSs and, magnets, if you have both of them to worry about, then that's where the grenades start flying out perhaps. And then you can focus more of your Protero drones on the Kiva barriers and shields that are more focused towards mezzanine. So not a bad idea whatsoever by Taken Kings. I'm just really wondering to see how the execution of this is going to pan out. And they don't even need the pocket charges for the main breach because they have a Habana on office wall instead of going across the map to deal with maybe some of those Kivas since they have rivalry again. But still, I think the same idea kind of pans out.
Oh, yeah.
Having a lot of utility burn over on this side of the map to allow Rai more focus on Mez, definitely a good option.
Plus, we saw from round number 1, never hurts to have some redundancy in that hard breaching.
Absolutely,
Burnt Turkey catches a stray bullet. You'll thank Wumbo for bringing those can openers. See all that Grim, all those bees covering that top floor, pushes Luxor all the way back.
Shields up.
And all the utility clear can fly through now. The shield gone, the Kiva gone. Beautiful utility clear from Taken Kings. All caught thanks to our observer, Max. Shout out to you. Loved that overhead view as we saw all the action pan out. There's still one player on this top floor, though. Not all have left. One has decided confidently to remain, and I don't think Rai knows. I don't know if he's checked the corner. It's flown through. There's so many attackers around him. When's he going to spring the trap? You got to get a kill at some point. This could be match point for CNE. Oh, they know now. They know just quickly enough to stop a slaughter from happening. Rai now downed outside of the bar window. Trade again. Back to 3-3. Atlas could have had the round in his hands, but still it's a tie game. Though Wumbo on low HP could say the same for Crispino. Scoop trying to be the difference maker. One bullet is the difference from victory, seeing life and death. Gladius sees 2. How do these players keep finding these positions? He's got the feedals to shut the diffuser down. Can he get the pre-fire? Though everything goes wide. No kills for the Frost. It's match point for Taken Kings.
And that really was the best case scenario for the offensive side of Taken Kings, only having one person die to Atlas since they misdroned him. Instant refrag by Wumbo. And on top of that, with how much utility they had as well, dumped into blue, there was no way there would be any assistance by Atlas. That really was a make or break play. See how much damage you can deal before you see the execute begin to kind of evolve into the rest of that round. So all things considered for Taken Kings, that was an incredible, idea of going about how they want to clear out that top floor since they had a lot of struggles with that bar bomb site from the extension in the past, and an even better execution of it as well, besides, of course, Rai having one little hiccup at the very end by not spotting Atlas. But again, they dealt with it, well enough, considering they only lost one body.
Taken Kings now have that match point. They've won a site. They did not win on the initial 3-round examination of CNE's defenses. The defense can get that previous win on Dining. We'll have OT, our first OT of the day. Let's have to see what happens, John. Taken Kings seem to have at least learned a little bit from their mistakes. So definitely want to make sure you drone all of that top floor and don't take anything for granted, because that could have been a game-defining play from Atlas. Had he gotten that second kill, if he looked towards the doorway instead of straight into the corner, that could have been a completely different round. It could be a match point for CNE right now. Instead, they'll just try to focus on holding this top floor. As Taken Kings, they still have that same complete, really just full court press from the utility by CNE.
And now for Taken Kings, they've, gone against the idea of let's really try to be, methodical about how we approach on these dining room attacks. And with that backfiring, they're looking to go for a bit more of a simplistic idea, I suppose. They already have the main breach available to be opened up since that K-Claw's been destroyed, despite the fact that Crispino does have one more in their back pocket that could be thrown out later on. But all things considered, They can get the main breach opened up. They don't have a lot of operators for vertical, so they can just have someone hold a much longer angle once the wall's opened up, then go down below and try to go for a site execute that is solely focused on dining room rather than putting a lot of attention over on the trophy side of the map. And if they have enough players alive, they could even get someone to lurk up the west main staircase, which is always really important when you're opting to go for a dining focused execute, just to add more layers of diversity into your play. But a really diverse Valkyrie camera has been had by CNE, and that's feeding them a lot of info towards this piano side of the map.
Crispino's still down below as well. Might be able to make the flank work up blue and library stairs. As Scoob and Jetcon will both be here for the foreseeable future, at least for the mid round. Jetcon now gone, but Scoob, before he finds his opportunity, he'll sit on this double door. He's waiting to find an opportunity. 14 and 6. One of 2 players positive in KD on Taken Kings right now. The only one with double digits. Jetcon not faring as well. Outside the bathroom window. Over 2 minutes, or almost 2 minutes gone, and Taken Kings still have not taken control of this top floor. Scoob just now pushing up. Everyone from CNE's backed off all the way onto Solar. rivalry looking to cut them off, but the Valkyrie might be able to vault over the window. Scoob needs to get this kill here, uses the Dokkaebi, and rivalry with the 417 uses some well-placed shots to make this now a 4v3 as Gladius comes alive. Reach outside the window, DMR up above, Taken Kings wide in their lead. 3-body problem facing Luxor to save the game and send it to overtime. Oh, Scoob, gotta hit those shots. Lumbo, gotta watch your feet. Don't give Luxor this one, not like this. Reset, you got 30 seconds, not a lot of time, but just enough to get your wits about you. One more toxic canister as his second detonates at the bottom of Solar Stairs. Nose one is outside of West Maid at the moment. Last one goes down, detonates it with 10 seconds left. One's now hopped in, gotta win this fight, but he's not even ADS'd. 7-5 victory for Taken Kings, sending CNE to the elimination games.
And I really thought they would focus more on dining in that round, especially since we saw the Twitch almost immediately break that Cade Claw for the main breach, looking in a dining room to get that plant down. But instead, after they had pushed the roamers far enough in that first floor, they just start establishing cutoff angles, getting a guy in the solar rappel, having someone playing master rappel as well. And that was just as effective as well. Really good job by Taken Kings to completely flush out that top floor. And with them having numbers from that effective roam clear, it made their small little flubs of having someone get caught in a frostmat and someone being downed not as taxing, because they had such an effective roam clear. Taken Kings really deserving this best of one victory on Chalet against CNE, despite having some problems midway through this best of one, and with CNE still keeping it really competitive up to the very end.
On average, I would say this game looked a bit more competitive for Taken Kings and more difficult for Taken Kings than that game against 1HP yesterday. Obviously, getting those defenses, I mean, that was a complete nightmare against 1HP. But those attacks, aside from the one they lost, which, I mean, your opponent being on match point, you drop even one, you make one mistake, that's the end of it. Taken Kings looked very much in control of the attacks yesterday, whereas today, they had to fight for a lot more of these rounds, and especially in that first half, CNE starting a lot of those rounds with an advantage, if not in man count, then in map control, or in time. CNE had a very good showing, and Taken Kings a lot rougher go of it, I would say, consistently round to round than yesterday, where it was a lot more streaky. Today, it was a bloodbath each and every single round. A good showing from, I would say, CNE and Taken Kings as well. Unfortunately, now CNE find themselves in that elimination spot. As we said, they're the ones who have to fight for their lives in the best of 3 tomorrow.
I think the back and forth can really be described best as well by
I want to retire.
I'm sorry, I almost threw.
wow, okay, that I was really expecting
retire?
Yeah, I was really expecting like a very like energetic kind of end of game replay there in the comms. So I like literally stopped talking midway sentence to hear it, and then I was just like, that was just so boring. Not gonna lie.
That sounded like they were tired, man. It sounded like they
maybe they wanted to get eliminated, bro. I don't know, man. Maybe that 1 HP game really drew out a lot more than we had expected. But one thing I'm really interested to see in the end of match stats is how back and forth the entry game was, because it felt like Atlas was firing on all cylinders for CNE. And I'd say for, Taken Kings, that might have been more for the JetCon and like Scoob as well for the main entries in that matchup as well. So to still see a game that was very back and forth in some rounds, not being won off the entry, but still having a very strong presence in the entry department by just a handful of players on each side. I definitely think that's something to look into, because we talked about how good the entry game was for Taken Kings and CNE, even in the matches that they lost. So maybe that's highlighted even more in the game that we saw Taken Kings finally win and CNE come even closer to winning this time.
It felt very back and forth on those entry
Right.
engagements. I think by the time we get to the later half of that game, it's 5-5 going in around 11. And what do you know? Yeah, 6 entries for Taken Kings, 6 entries for CNE.
Yeah.
So conversion all over the board, but neither team getting the edge over the other in those entry engagements. So as you said, John, it was a very even game when it came to who was getting those kills, when they were getting them, what half they were getting them on, and even the ratings too. 1.08 compared to 0.9 average is about as close as you can get.
Yeah, really just the small differences with just the 2 round wins that TK had against CNE. That's clearly shown in the rating. Nothing too outlandish like a Dilemma FMG scoreline. And you had on both teams a couple of people really being, star-studded in terms of just general stats, like Allison Victory having double digits, Wumbo coming close, and then Scoob, of course, doing a lot in the general kill department, not so much just the entry, but just being that overall solid foundation to find a bunch of kills. On Iana, I mean, you can't really beat that, especially when you have everyone else finding their entry in certain positions. Even going for the objective when it is an option for both CNE and Taken Kings. We saw that with just one specific objective play by both sides. Really, this is probably one of the closest games that we've had, besides maybe the SSG Academy game that you broadcasted yesterday, because that went to almost full overtime.
It was a very close one against SSG Academy yesterday. We do have somebody with us to talk to about that game. We have Wumbo in the booth to talk to. Hello, Wumbo. How you doing after that close victory?
Oh, pretty good, light work for us, as always. But,
okay. Hold on, actually. I want to challenge that, because we had the comms at the end of round 12, and I heard a few sighs of relief, it almost sounded like, at the end of that game. I don't know if that game sounded easy as usual, like you try to paint it.
Well, gotta say, Vipoa, no hours of sleep. He's out doing some Vipoa misadventures. Who knows? He's doing something. He couldn't be here to play, so I have to step in last second, and that's very stressful for everybody in this situation, because we're not all the preparing we've done, and then all of a sudden this random coach has never played above T4 has to step in, but everything worked out, and that's what matters at the end of the day, I gotta say.
Hey, that's true. You did get the 7-5 victory, and considering you are the coach, you've got that bird's eye perspective. I want to ask you about one of the players that we saw show up yesterday big despite the loss, then show up today big as well, and that's obviously Scoob. He was, even though the game was 6-0, he was one of the big players that made that attacking half for Taken Kings yesterday, and obviously the top performer for you guys today. What does he bring to the team, and how does the system incorporate him to get a lot of those entry kills and a lot of those kills in general that we've seen?
Man, Scoob is one of the most versatile players I've ever seen in my time working in this game. Like today, we put him on the Vipoa roles, and he picked up right like that. It was instant for him. It's just as simple as he's a little bit smarter and he shoots his gun a little bit better is what I've come to the conclusion of, because I've barely ever seen him have a bad game. So, I love Scoob. He's probably the best vibe we have on the team as well. Really brings everything together. Just puts the icing on the cake for this amazing team, in my opinion.
Well, he certainly looked excellent today. And of course, we've seen you guys only play 2 maps inside of Element 1 so far. So you guys played Border yesterday and Chalet today. Typically leaning towards that aggressive side a little bit. Is this a team that tends to favor the kind of meta right now of playing very aggressive, playing very loose, or you still got some structure to show us?
I think we have both. I think it'll be a pleasant surprise once we get to the BO3s how much structure we can bring. We do tend to favor these maps because they do play into the play styles of our players like Scoob and Vipoa, who tend to get in there and get more of those entry kills and are excelling on these aggressive maps. But there's definitely a side to us that we can dominate on those more structured maps and in those more structured styles. It just really depends on the opponent and on the day.
All right, well, I won't take too much of your time, especially if you want to see where Vipoa is, if he's missing in action. Anything you want to say before we sign off?
I'm just happy to be here. That's all I gotta say.
I appreciate that vibe. We need more of that vibe. I'm just happy to show up, play some video games. I appreciate that.
God bless.
Thank you very much, Wumbo. Good job on the victory, and have a nice day.
You too. Thank you.
What a nice guy. What a nice guy. I gotta say, I didn't know what to expect when I saw the name was Wumbo. One of the more off-the-wall names I've seen in Rainbow Six, but he's a nice guy. I like him.
Yeah, it went from being a little, I guess a little bit in your face about it, of being like, oh yeah, just light work, and then actually a little bit more humble. That was honestly a very nice. I'm glad you challenged him.
I had to call him on it. He was like, oh, light work, light work. I was like, you guys sounded like you ran a marathon after that game based on what I heard. So I don't know about that. But I mean, John, if we want to level with it, I'm going to be pretty out of breath come November because you know where I'm going? By foot. I'm going to the Atlanta Major. I'm sprinting the entire way. Not because of like some fitness challenge. I'm just that excited. I'm just that happy about it. What do you mean say it? Say what?
I was going to say, I don't think I've ever seen you run before, so this is going to be a whole new experience for everyone. Although, I know we talked a little bit. At one point, you were very much in shape, so maybe you'll, rub it in my face.
At one point.
Although, hey, I don't know, man. We don't get to talk anymore. It feels like you've just become, I don't know, a shell of yourself, man. Like, you're never around anymore. You've grown up on me at this point, Carter. Like, what the heck? It's crazy.
A shell of myself? I still go to the gym, man. Either way.
Oh, not even about gym talk. I meant just us talking.
All right. Either way, John and I will get more quality time at the Atlanta Major specifically. So make sure you get your tickets. And not only will you see me and John, you can see all your favorite teams from North America, from Europe, wherever you're from. We'll see them at the Atlanta Major. But that's it for game one. We still got 2 more tonight. So take a short little break, go to the bathroom, make some popcorn. We'll be back in a few minutes.